Hello, and welcome back for another edition of the Epic Sports Podcast. I'm Jordan Taylor.
And I'm Zach Conbest.
And we're your hosts here where we give you updates on everything Colonel Nation, as well as some stuff going on around the country in sports. To start off the show, let's talk about EKU football, Zach. Over the weekend, played at home against Southeast Missouri to open up OVC play. What did you see in that game there?
They had a great game. They won 23-14. The run game was pretty good, better than SEMO. And the conditions, it was wet and cold, but they came out on top. Did pretty good.
Indeed, they did. They, as you said, they won the game 23-14. The only time they trailed was in the first quarter. They went down 7-3. But we had Coach Elder in on Monday to talk about that game as well as the upcoming season. So here's that interview that we had with Coach Elder on Monday. All right, and today with us on the Epic Sports Podcast, we have football head coach Mark Elder. Thanks for joining us today, Coach.
Thank you for having me on.
No problem. Zach, I understand you have some questions for the coach right out the gate. Go ahead and dig into them there.
So, great win on Saturday against SEMO. How does it feel getting that OVC playoff with a win for the first game? How does that feel?
Oh, it was great. I mean, the OVC schedule is obviously the part that really matters the most in the season because if you want to play postseason, the one way that you can guarantee that is if we're conference champions. So to start off 1-0 and be in control of our own destiny and own fate as far as that stuff is concerned, and I think SEMO is a very good team. They're very well coached. They're a tough physical football team, and our guys came out and played well and earned the victory, and it was great to start the season off, the OVC playoff, that way.
And how was it starting the OVC play at home? Was that a big factor?
Yes. I mean, so we're 4 games in and had played 3 at that point and had the opening game on a Thursday night at home, but then we were away for 2 straight weeks. So it was great to get back home where we're a little bit more in our environment. The work week is a little bit more normal for us to be in. We don't have to get on a bus and do a long travel, especially that trip. There's a handful of trips in the conference that are really long trips, and SEMO is one of those. And so SEMO, Eastern Illinois, and Jack State, those are long trips. They're like 7-hour or longer bus ride. So for us to be at home where we get to stay in our home turf and guys get to stay at home on Friday and don't have that long bus ride, that was great. And then obviously to play in front of our fans. I mean, we've got great support. The student tailgate lot was rocking. It was great to see that, the students to come out and support us. And it wasn't the most beautiful of days. It was a little bit dreary, a little bit rainy, but we still had our loyal fans there. And then we were also honoring the 07 and 08 championship teams. And so there was a lot of former players that have been champions here that came back, and we had a nice event for them on Friday, but it was great to see them along with a lot of our alumni up at the cabin on the hill, up at the top of the hill in the end zone.
And during the game, you guys had forced 5 turnovers. Yeah. How was that a momentum swing for the team?
Well, that's huge. Outside of just scoring more points than the other team, the turnovers is the number one factor as far as whether you're going to win or lose ball games. And so that's been a key for us. I mean, ever since we've been here, that's been a major factor in games. And too many times it's been a negative major factor for us in games. And for us to be +4 in that category was huge. We had the one exchange issue between the quarterback and running back that we got to get cleaned up, but we took the ball away 5 times. It was great to see us do that. It was great to see us go out there. And we got 4 interceptions. We got another takeaway on special teams. Played a huge part in our victory, especially a couple of them. They all did, but they were driving at the end of the game. We're only up 6 points, and Cornelius Floyd stepped in front of a pass. That was a huge change in momentum and gave us a great opportunity to win the game because they were moving the ball pretty well down the field on us at that point in time. And then we punted the ball late in the fourth quarter, and their guy muffed it. And frankly, we saw that as a possibility with him because he takes some chances. Their punt returner took some chances. You saw him catching a lot of balls that were pretty risky not just in our game, but in every game. So we knew that was a possibility that could happen. Our guys did a good job, and that was a huge takeaway there because that allowed us to really drive the field, take up some more clock, and ice the game with a field goal at the end.
And offensively, the running backs had 259 yards on the ground. What have you seen from all the different running backs like L.J. Scott over the season that has impressed you?
Well, I think we got a handful of very, very talented backs. Felt that way last year, felt that way this year, and they each bring something different to the table. Darryl is our leading rusher right now, and he's very, very elusive. I mean, he can make you miss in a telephone booth, so he does a really good job as far as being elusive. He's got great vision as far as a running back. He slips into some holes that are tiny, and he finds a way to squirt through there. LJ is a very complete back. He can be big and physical. He can also run away from you. He's great in pass pro. He's can catch the football, so he does a great job. Jason is a very, very big physical back, as is Alonzo, very big physical back. That they run through tackles, they get tough yards. Alonzo can make you miss also. He's for a big fella, he's pretty elusive. Ralph has been very effective with the football. So we feel like we've got a handful of very good running backs, and we had these guys last year. The big difference is we've been much more productive this year, and it's not necessarily the backs. What it is it's the 10 guys around them. One thing is the quarterback. We have a more mobile quarterback this year, which helps the run game because we do design read plays where he can be a factor in the run play, and that can play a huge part because now they have to be honest on our quarterback. It puts one less guy at the point of attack going towards the tailback. But really the big factor has been our line has been much more physical, our tight ends have been much more physical, and our perimeter play has really been very good as far as blocking, and that's been the big difference because we had the same talented backs a year ago. We did not run the ball nearly as effectively. Now we're able to showcase those guys. We're leading the conference in rushing and have been doing a really good job, and it's because we've got a bunch of guys that are very talented, and the guys in front of them are opening holes.
Indeed. Just to speak on that further, you're averaging, you said leading the conference, averaging around 300 yards per game. In the offseason, was that the point of emphasis that you had going into the season, was rushing better?
It certainly was one of them, yes, because as I said a year ago, we had these same guys, and we think our running backs are very talented. And unfortunately, we were not able to utilize the talent that we had in the program to its full effect because we did not open as many holes. We didn't knock people off the ball. We didn't block as well up front and on the perimeter as what we needed to. So that was absolutely a major point of contention for us, a major emphasis for us this whole offseason. And starting right from the get-go, it was we've got to get bigger, faster, stronger in the weight room. We've got to be more physical to be able to knock people off the ball so we can utilize the skill sets of these very talented backs that we have. So we've done that. I mean, our guys are physically bigger. Our guys are stronger. We're more able to knock people off the football, and I think that is shown. I mean, we rushed for 400 against Moorhead. We rushed decent against Marshall, although I think that was a really, really talented front seven. It was tough for us to get much going against them because they were very, very physical. But we go to Bowling Green. That's a FBS opponent, and we rushed for 380-something yards against them. SEMO, they play a very, very difficult bare front. That front is designed to stop the run. And boy, did they ever a year ago against us. I think we rushed for 11 yards against them last year.
Wow.
I mean, they kicked our tail.
Right.
And so this year we rushed for 50-something yards. So you're seeing one game where we were okay running the football, and then three where we've run the ball effectively. And the other part of it is it's been one of those situations where, hey, guess what? We're running the football, and they know we're running the football. We know we're running the football. My mom in the stands knows we're running the football. And you know what? We're still running the football. And that's we talked about that in the offseason. We want to be able to run the football when we want to run the football, whether or not they know it's happening. And thus far, we've been able to do that. Jacksonville State, I think they got the number one rush defense in the conference, one of the best in the country. We got them after the bye week. This is going to be a great challenge because we're going to run the football. And they're going to know we're going to run the football. And they're pretty good stopping it. We've been pretty good at doing it. So we're going to have two teams that are pretty good at that area colliding this next game.
Indeed.
And what kind of improvements do you want to make with your team before that Jacksonville State game?
Oh, we got to clean up some things. We're not where we want to be. We've had some discipline things that we've got to get cleaned up. I mean, not off the field stuff. I'm talking on the field discipline. We've been too many penalties, and the self-inflicted ones are the ones that you care a bunch about. You're going to have an occasional hold. You're going to have an occasional mid-play penalty that occurs. That's normal football. Guys playing hard, they're grabbing, they might accidentally get the face mask. We need to clean that stuff up too. But the self-inflicted dead ball penalties, we've got to do a better job with that. We got to focus on what matters, and that's helping us win the game, being completely locked in. Those are some things, and then. Each phase has an area that we need to improve. I think we've left a couple of plays out there on special teams that we could just be a little bit more detailed on, that we could play a little bit better with. I think we've done a lot of good things on special teams. We really have. We got a bunch of takeaways, blocked the punt, blocked the extra point, fake field goal. We've done a lot of good things on special teams, but we've left plays out there. I mean, there's 4 or 5 plays that would have been huge, monumental plays for us that the naked eye probably doesn't see, that we say, hey, if we were just a hair bit better in this category, we would have flipped that game with that play right there. So that's an area. We've been skewed towards the run. We got to be a little bit more balanced than what we've been. We've got to do a better job protecting our quarterback. We've got to hit open receivers, and our receivers got to catch the ball a little bit better when it's close. We've got to be a little bit more balanced in the passing game and defensively, just some detail stuff. We've, again, similar to special teams, we've left some plays out there where we were just not quite detailed enough on a couple things that led to bigger plays than what they needed to. And the penalties on defense, we've had 14 scoring drives, and 10 of those 14 scoring drives, we've had some sort of penalty that has either led to a touchdown or a first down to continue the drive. We just got to clean that stuff up.
Just speaking on the SEMO game, those 4 interceptions, what led to the defensive backs playing that well? Was it just something that SEMO was doing, something that was in the scheme? What produced such a great game in the defensive backfield for you guys?
Well, I think that those guys did a great job of being very disciplined in their assignments. We were matching routes very, very well, and guys were disciplined with their eyes. They weren't staring in the backfield when they should be, looking at the hip of the receiver. They were at the right place where they needed to be, and then with that discipline, gave them the opportunity to step in front. And that was a real positive to see those guys be in tight coverage and then make the play. And that was really 3 of the 4 interceptions was that. We matched the route well, and we drove on the receiver, and then at the last second stepped in front, which is exactly what you coach them to do.
Right.
You don't want your eyes in the backfield and you're trying to just make picks all the time. You might get a couple picks off of that, but you're also going to get some double moves and give up a bunch of touchdowns that way. And that was not the case. 3 of those 4 interceptions, Ben Bascom's first one, he drove the route really well and stepped in front. That was big. Trey Moore, Leotis Moore, his was the same thing. He drove the receiver when he was on the hip of the receiver. He peeked back and was in the right place to make the play and step in front. And then Cornelius's last one was that as well, which was he was driving the receiver, stepped in front, and made the play. Obviously, Cornelius's first one was a pretty spectacular play. I mean, he matched the route really well. It was a 50-50 ball, went up for it. The ball got tipped. He had the whereabouts to concentrate and keep his eyes on the ball, even though he was on the ground, and snagged a pretty impressive interception there. But the other 3 were just guys doing what they're coached to do and doing it at a very, very high level, driving the receiver, matching the route really, really well, and peaking at the last second when they're getting ready to step in front. And they did a great job. We just got to continue doing that.
Right. Hopefully, moving forward in the season, they can build on that and continue to create more turnovers moving forward.
Absolutely. That's a huge part of things, and we've gotten our interceptions have gone up quite a bit. I think that we're at 7 or 8 right now. I
believe
say
8.
Yeah, I think 8, which I think is already past what we had a year ago. So we've certainly done a good job as far as that stuff is concerned. We got to continue.
Right.
We got to continue.
And with special teams, Samuel Hayworth He earned his second OVC Specialist of the Week honor after going perfect 3 for 3 in the game. How has he improved over this season, and what have you seen from him?
Sam's done a great job. He really has. 6 for 8 on field goals. One of his 2 misses I wouldn't really put in. It wasn't necessarily his fault. He just barely missed the one against Marshall. I want to say it was that he just missed it. That he just missed the one barely. But other than that, he's been on point. He's been really, really good for us. The two field goals were clutch for us. I mean, he had 2 41-yard field goals. The last one was huge. We're up 6 points. There's just over a minute to go in the game. If we hit this one outside of a catastrophe, we win the game. So he drilled that one from 41 yards with a lot of rush coming at him, and then that gave us the opportunity that we really just had to bleed the clock. We weren't concerned about the yards that they were going to gain on that next drive. We just had to bleed the clock because they needed 2 scores to win at that point in time. So he's done a really good job. He's had a couple days where he's been really good on kickoff as well. So I've been very, very pleased with Sam. This is his first time where this is his role, and he's the main guy for us. And so it's been great to see him step up and do well. And we were confident that he would be able to do that. We really were.
All right. Hopefully he can continue making extra points and not be stuck in field goal situations. Hopefully every scoring drive is a touchdown.
No doubt. Yeah, our goal, and this is one thing we want to have every drive offensively end in a kick, and that's extra points. Obviously, is the ideal situation. Yeah. Field goals is second, but punting is third. And I'll say this, I mean, if you end drives in punts, if every single series you end with some sort of kick, even if there's a handful of punts, I mean, we punted 7 times, but you're not handing the ball to the other team. You can win a lot of ball games. So
field position.
Field position. Because if you punt, that's not ideal. You want to score touchdowns. You want to kick field goals. You want to get points every single time. But at the end of the day, they got scholarships too. They got coaches as well. They're going to stop us eventually. If we can end in a punt where we're punt the ball, we think Phil's a very good punter. We're going to gain 40 yards of field position. We can have confidence in our defense to get the ball back for us. But that's our goal. Obviously, as many times as it can be extra points, that is the best situation. Right. But at the end of the day, if we can have a goose egg in that turnover margin and every single play, every single series, we end in some sort of a kick, that's going to be a real positive thing for the Colonels.
All right. So I think that's going to wrap it up with our interview here, Coach. We appreciate having you on, and good luck in the bye week and preparing for Jacksonville State. Thank you. Hopefully you can line up in the trenches and keep running it down their throat like you have been doing.
Absolutely. Hopefully we can get all the student body to come out and support us again. Jacksonville State's going to be a great contest. They're obviously a big fish in the OVC, and I think our guys are excited and ready for it. So it'll be an awesome atmosphere. The following Saturday, not this Saturday, but next Saturday, 4 o'clock, it'll be a great atmosphere. Would love to have everybody out.
Indeed. I believe they were picked to win the OVC in the preseason.
Yes, they've won it 4 straight years. I mean, when I say they're big fish in this conference, they certainly are a big fish. They're a top 10 team in the country. This is a big game, like all of the OVC games are, but this is a big game. They've been the bell cow of this conference for the last handful of years, and our guys feel like we're ready to challenge for that.
Indeed. Let's get out there and support Colonel Nation. Get out and support the Colonels, and hopefully we can pull out a big win next Saturday at 4 o'clock. Thanks, Coach Elder.
Awesome. Thank you guys for having me on.
Welcome back here live in the studio once again. So Coach Elder talked about a few things in the interview on Monday. One of those was we talked about the rushing yards that EKU had. Just a stat on that, the final stat. The Colonels 259 yards rushing to SEMO's 134. So we were dominant in the run game there. Passing, not as much. 63 yards to their 159. But as Coach Elder said, it's something that they're working on being more balanced. They're definitely got the run game going, trying to get the passing game going as well moving forward. We were 6 for 14, so a little under 50% on our pass completions. He also touched on just doing making more sound plays and not making mistakes. We did have 10 penalties for 95 yards. So, it's almost giving up a whole football field in mistakes. So, definitely something that he was stressing they needed to work on. So, hopefully, we'll see improvements there moving forward in the season. Did have the 4 picks. Also, a big stat that jumped out to me was the time of possession. Now, being a run-first team, obviously, you're going to want to control the clock and just smash it down their throat. Long drives. 37 minutes and 2 seconds to 22:58 was the time of possession. So we definitely, almost a whole quarter of the game that we had the ball longer than they did. So that was pretty big. Big standout player defensively was Gavin Bryant. Had 10 total tackles, 2 of those for loss. And then also Cornelius Floyd with his 2 interceptions.
And the offensive line had a great game too. Junior running back Daryl McCleskey, he picked up 91 yards on the ground, so the offensive line really held their ground. There was quite a few holding penalties on offense and defense both, but besides that, the run game looked really good. L.J. Scott also added 71 yards and a touchdown in the game.
Indeed. It was a great game on the ground with the conditions, as you said, wet. It's a great day when you can get your run game going in the rain because it's a lot harder to pass with those conditions.
That's true.
Just another stat. So another thing that is kind of going into the, capitalizing on opportunities that Coach Utter touched on. We had 4 interceptions and a recovered fumble against SEMO. So we created 5 turnovers. And on those 5 turnovers, we only accounted for 6 points off of those turnovers, 2 field goals. The first interception of the game, we got our first field goal. Their first drive, they came out, we got an interception, drove down, got a field goal off of that first drive of the game. But then after that, 2 more interceptions in the second quarter ended with a punt and a fumble. Then in the fourth quarter, an interception that ended in a punt, and then, of course, the recovered fumble that we scored a field goal off of our last drive of the game. Just something I know that Coach Elder touched on, getting points off those turnovers. Creating that many turnovers, you would hope that the game would be a bigger win margin than 9 points. So,
and one thing he always says to his players is run to the ball, don't just watch it. And interesting thing, a note after the game was EKU totaled 5 interceptions in 11 games last season, but they entered the game with 4 interceptions in the first 3 games of this season, and then EKU picked off 4 passes in the game against SEMO. So you can tell their defense has really been working on getting those turnovers, and they're doing a pretty good job on that.
Indeed, they are. They, as we said, in the interview with Coach Elder, a bye week this week before preparing for those Gamecocks from Jacksonville State. It's going to be a big game. It will be at home. Do you have the time for that game, Zach, in front of you? I want to say it was a 3:30 or 4 o'clock game.
I think so. Let me double check. And it's at home, October 6th, I believe the date is. That'll be a good game. Jacksonville State has a strong defense, and they'll definitely be a tough competition.
So that as we stated in the interview with Coach Elder, that game with Jacksonville State, they've won the OVC. The last handful of years, they've kind of controlled it. So get out there and support the Colonels next Saturday. Home game, big game on the schedule. If we can pull out a win in this one, it's going to go a long way for the team's confidence as well as just building momentum moving forward and trying to capture an OVC or at least compete for it. So get out there and support the Colonels next Saturday against Jacksonville State. Fire the cannon. And moving forward, we're going to move into some other sports. So volleyball. What have you seen so far from the volleyball team, Zach?
They have been pretty good so far, actually. They started OVC play on Friday and Saturday, the games actually got moved from Alumni Coliseum to Madison Central High School because of AC problems in the gym. So that was a different transition for them, I guess, and they came out with wins in those games. They did pretty well, but then they played Morehead State on the 26th, and they gave a good battle with them.
Was at Morehead State.
Yes,
there, so.
yes, it was at Morehead. They fell to them 3-0, but that was still a good competition right there. So overall in the season, EKU is 3-12 and 2-1 in the OVC.
Indeed, and as you said, 3-12 overall. But just understand that Coach Duncan, the volleyball coach, prides herself on giving her players experiences and playing tough competition early on. So that 3-12, I don't think it's a good indicator for how good this team can be moving forward. I know this is Coach Duncan's last season, so the team definitely wants to send her out with an OVC championship. The team at 3-12, they're 2-1 in OVC. So they were 1-11 coming into OVC play, but they're playing against teams like Penn State, that's ranked 6th in the country. These other teams, University of Cincinnati, Xavier University, Indiana University, just top teams from around the country, good volleyball programs. They've been traveling, so don't let the 3-12 fool you. They may be a lot better than that record indicates. And as we said, they're 2-1 in conference play right now. They're 2-0 at home, so on the home floor they haven't lost. Their next game is going to be Saturday at 2 p.m. That one's at Murray State, another OVC game, and then they will be back home October 11th will be the next home game against Tennessee Martin. That's at 6 p.m. on a Thursday, October 11th. So they got a few road games at Murray State, at Tennessee State, and then at Belmont before they come back home. So get out there and support them when they do come back home. Let's make it 3-0 at home for the Colonels and keep pushing for Coach Duncan to go out on top in her last season here. And also, Zach, we've had softball open up their fall ball schedule. It is a very short schedule. It's kind of like some exhibitions just to get tweaks out before they start season in the spring. But what have you seen in fall ball?
So they started out against the University of Louisville at home. They split that series 1-1. The second game they got the win, 5-4. But then they're going to go to Kentucky on tomorrow. And that's going to be an interesting game right there. Kentucky's a pretty good softball team, but then they have the Cumberlands coming up at Lakeland Junior College and then Georgetown, and those games will be at home.
Right.
So they have some different competition, a mixture of some SEC schools and then some lower division schools. So it'll be interesting to see how they play in those games.
It will be interesting. As you said, that doubleheader that they had with the University of Louisville, they split that.
Yes.
Losing the first game 0-5, but then they came back in the second one and won 5-4. And Louisville, it's a good program to compete against, kind of a measuring stick to see where they are. It's kind of what all the fall ball is kind of a measuring stick. Let's see what we have before we open up in the spring. But they, splitting with Louisville is a good indicator of that there's potential there. And as you said, there's some balanced competition, kind of fill things out and see what they have. So get out there. If you don't have anything else to do, on Saturday at noon, that will be the home game for the University of we'll play against the University of Cumberland.
Yep, we are.
So get out there and support softball in their fall ball schedule. I know for those of you that are softball fans, fall ball you don't get very many opportunities. So Saturday at noon and then again at 2 p.m., they'll have 2 home games for you guys to get out there and support the Colonels. Also in schedule right now, soccer. Sunday, we were supposed to host Morehead State. That game has been postponed and moved to October 2nd, if I'm correct.
2nd, yes.
So that game has been moved to next Tuesday at 4 p.m. What have you seen from soccer so far, Zach?
Looking pretty good. They're going to travel to SEMO today. They have a game at 7:30 tonight. That'll be a good game. I know traveling, that's pretty far to travel. So it'll be interesting to see how they play in that game. But, yeah, that Morehead State got moved. but I think that will be a fun game to watch. Two rivals hitting it on the field, and it's at home, so definitely come out and support.
Indeed, that as Zach said, come out and support there. I know last week I got a little mixed up. Luckily, that game was postponed, so nobody showed up to support the Eagles. But get out there and support the Colonels against the Eagles on Tuesday at 4 p.m. As Zach said, as you said, Zach, that it's going to be a good game, rivalry game. Right now, in OVC play, the Colonels haven't got a win yet, but hopefully we can pull out one tonight at SEMO and then come home and get another one against Morehead State moving forward as we move into the meat of the OVC schedule, trying to prepare for the OVC tournament in soccer.
And so far on the road, we've been 2-4. It's our record. So, they have a good chance of winning it. But, 2-4 on the road. And then at home, we're 2-1-1. So 1-2, lost 1, tied 1. So.
And interesting to mention that one of those wins on the road was at University of Kentucky back on September 2nd. So it's a good win for the program competing, against UK. Obviously UK, U of L, they're in-state schools, but they have a lot more money available for their sports program. So anytime we can beat them in anything, it's a good win. So get out there and support the Colonels as the soccer Colonels as they move into the schedule. Obviously we want to win the OVC and everything. So get out there and support. The teams love it when they have more support. It kind of gives them more momentum in the game. So get out there and support the Colonels. Let's now move into some stuff going on nationally. And now that we've wrapped up everything, Colonel Nation, EKU sports that's kind of going on right now, let's move into some national stuff. So I know there's a topic you want to speak about in the National Football League. What do you have for us, Zach?
So the Cleveland Browns finally have won a game. It's been forever. It's been forever.
I know they might have the most dedicated sports fans in all of sports.
I think
those
so.
Browns fans.
I couldn't have lasted that long, without a win. But they finally beat the New York Jets 21-17, and Baker Mayfield led the team. Rookie came in and dominated. He had 201 passing yards, went 17 for 23. So he looked pretty strong out there.
Indeed. And as you said, that was their first win in 20 games. Mm-hmm. So for those of you that don't know, an NFL season is 16 games. So it's been a while since the Browns got to experience a win. That game was at home. It was in Cleveland against the Jets. Finally got them a win there. I'm glad for the Cleveland fan base that they finally got a win. There's an ESPN story where the 30 for 30 series, they had a story on Cleveland, Believe Land. It was before it came out before LeBron finally captured a championship for the Cavaliers, but Cleveland throughout history has been a sports town filled with, we almost did it.
Yep.
And
exactly.
It's good to see the Browns making progress. They have a lot of young talent up there in Cleveland with Baker Mayfield and some of those other guys they brought in. So moving forward, hopefully they can be more competitive. Obviously, as sports fans, we want to see every game be competitive. You don't want to just watch one team dominate over and over and over again unless you're an Alabama Crimson Tide fan, but we'll get into that. But you want to see competitive games, and you want all teams to be capable of winning. It just makes stuff more interesting when you don't know every game like, this team's going to win, that team's going to lose. Obviously, you want teams to be more competitive. It makes stuff more entertaining to watch. So I'm just happy for the Cleveland fan base and them getting a win. Hopefully they can get a few more and start being competitive again.
Hopefully, yeah.
Also in the NFL, this guy, Ryan Fitzpatrick, came out. This guy's a vet that's been in the league for a while. He's never really had any great seasons. He came out for Tampa Bay Buccaneers, had them 2-0, playing probably the best 2 games he's ever played in his career. Just came out, played lights out for Tampa Bay. Had him even there was even discussions going on that when Jameis Winston came back from injury, are they going to pull Fitzpatrick? Are they going to pull Fitzpatrick, who's been a veteran backup for the majority of his career? Never really been a starter other than situations where, the starter went down, Fitzpatrick's the guy now.
Yep.
That's kind of what happened here. But this past weekend, he finally had more of a Fitzpatrick game. They started 2-0. He was playing incredible. But this past weekend, they played at home against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Ended up losing 30-27. They did make a comeback. They were down like 30-10 in that game. Fitzpatrick made a little bit of a comeback, but his stats 30 for 50. That's a lot of pass attempts. I'm pretty sure he had some ice on the shoulder after that game because he's an older guy, been in the league. 50 pass attempts is a lot. That's you're getting up there with like baseball pitchers, like how many times you're throwing the ball. 411 yards on those 30 completions. He did have 3 touchdowns, but also 3 interceptions. So it's more of this is the Fitzpatrick we know kind of thing, not the guy that's throwing 7 touchdowns and 1 interception, I believe, might have been through the first 2 games, something like that. So fine. Not to hate on Fitzpatrick or anything like that, but okay, that's the guy that I remember seeing. So, and being a Falcons fan, I obviously don't want some old backup for most of his career being the shining quarterback of the NFC South. So I'm just glad that we know that Fitzpatrick is human and not just some almost Tom Brady that's out there doing this kind of stuff. But we have in the NFL some teams that have been impressing. What have you seen throughout the league?
So far, I've liked the Minnesota Vikings. They look pretty good. And, of course, the Browns after they won. But, of course, New England, they're pretty dominant.
As usual.
Yeah.
That's kind of a
They are. But they did have 2 losses, though. They're 1-2. But I feel like they'll turn around. They have the Dolphins coming up, then the Colts and the Chiefs. So some pretty good games coming up. And then, of course, I'm always a fan of the Packers, especially because of Tim Boyle, alumni from EKU, is playing there now.
Right.
So that's always a good team to watch out for. But today we have a game, Minnesota and the LA Rams, Thursday Night Football. So that'll be a good game to watch. It'll be in LA, too.
Yeah, it's the Rams are one of 2. I take that back. Excuse me. One of 3 undefeated teams left in the league. 3 weeks into the season, you usually have a few teams that make it to that like 4-0 threshold before you can start saying, okay, this team might be for real. But the Rams 3-0, the Chiefs, as well as the Dolphins. The Dolphins might be the most surprising of the 3. That is, not that they've won 3 games, but just the fact that they're in the mention of only 2 other teams being undefeated. So the Rams are 3-0. They have looked impressive. I'm a Bulldogs fan. We'll get into college football. So obviously I cheer for Gurley. That's my boy.
Yeah.
I want him to do great. But should be a great game, as you said. The Vikings have looked good after going to the NFC Championship last season. What they did in that championship is another story, but they did make it to the NFC Championship last season, and they have looked good. They've looked impressive through the first 3 weeks, so it should be a good game tonight. Thursday Night Football, Rams and Vikings. Other teams throughout the league that obviously the Eagles, defending Super Bowl champs, they're 2-1 right now. They look on track to be competitive again. What's surprising to me, the Tennessee Titans defense. That has been surprising to me in the fact that they played Jacksonville last weekend, a match of field goals. No one scores a touchdown in the game. Jacksonville obviously had the best defense in the league last year, going to the AFC Championship, getting beat by the Patriots there. But the Titans coming out and showing that, hey, Jacksonville, you got good defense, but guess what? AFC South might just be the defensive division, and they came out and shut down Jacksonville's offense as well. And that was impressive to me. Moving forward in the season, if Tennessee's defense continues to play at that level, then that division is going to be competitive between them and Jacksonville. May both make the playoffs again as they did last year, and whoever wins that division may have a upper hand in making it further in the playoffs, just because that defense, whoever has a defense that good playing at home, is obviously a big factor in the playoffs.
Definitely.
So definitely some things to look forward in the season. I know it's still early, so there's early teams. You have the Chiefs undefeated. We've been here before. Hopefully, we don't see the Chiefs that come out and make it to 6-7-0 and then flop and win and lose 5 out of 6 games. We've seen it in the past. Hopefully, that doesn't happen again. Just because you want to see competitive stuff. You don't want to get behind a team, be like, "Oh, this team's for real," and then they smack you in the mouth, say, "No, well, we were just playing." But early season stuff, as we said, that that teams can look one way and then turn out to be another. And also there's injuries and stuff that may happen, trades, things like that. But definitely some stuff looking forward in the season. My team, the Atlanta Falcons, has not been impressive in the fact that we just don't look like we can win a close game. We've lost 2 games in overtime already, and we're 1-2. So
you got to watch out. My team, the Cincinnati Bengals, they're coming after you this weekend. So, yeah, Bengals are 2-1. Looking pretty good. So, got dominating wins over the Ravens and Colts. So, that'll be a really good game, too, to watch. And that's in Atlanta. So,
and let me correct myself. We've lost 1 game in overtime. The first game of the season at the Eagles, it was kind of a replay of the game we played in the NFC divisional last year where Julio catches the ball out of bounds in the end zone and we lose by 6 points. Just the close ones that it came down to the wire, 2 of them now that we've lost. That game, as you said, the Bengals this Sunday, 1 p.m. It's in Atlanta, so hopefully we can get some backing there in the Benz, our new stadium that we opened last year. The team are in Atlanta. The fans definitely come out and support, so hopefully we can get up big and not have to worry about it being a close game. But NFL, as we said, a lot of stuff to look forward to. Moving forward, my favorite segment that we talk about, let's get into college football. I just want to start out by saying last week I picked a dark horse, and that dark horse disappointed very much so. Came out and lost at Old Dominion. For those of you that didn't listen last week, I picked Virginia Tech as my dark horse for the playoffs. Their playoff hopes are pretty much done now. You lose to Old Dominion, I don't see you getting in. So, what do you have for us, Zach? What have you seen college football? What are your takeaways so far?
college football so far, Ohio State, LSU is looking strong. There's a bunch of teams that are 4-0 still, and of course the Kentucky Wildcats are 4-0.
Yeah, they had a big win.
Yeah,
I thought Mississippi
big.
State was a little overrated, but it was still nonetheless a big win for the Kentucky program.
Definitely. Benny Snell, of course, led the team. Mississippi State couldn't stop them.
Yeah.
So he was dominant.
Indeed he was. Let's just kind of do it like we did last week. We'll kind of go conference by conference. We can talk about playoff contenders. So we'll start with the ACC. And last week I said it was kind of Clemson's conference to lose. I don't think it's kind of anymore. I think it's completely Clemson's conference to lose at this point. If they run the table in the ACC, they're going to make it into the playoff. They're looking like the only team capable.
They are looking dominant. Yeah.
Being a playoff contender right now. Virginia Tech usually has a great defense, and I picked them as my dark horse, thinking they're going to come out with this great defense, give Clemson some competition. Not saying that Virginia Tech won't compete moving forward. They still potentially could give Clemson a big game, but losing to Old Dominion kind of cancels your playoff hopes. You don't lose to a team called Old Dominion in FBS football and still hope to be national champions at that level. So kind of dash that. So ACC,
yeah, and then
Clemson or bust.
It is. And then Boston College, they were looking pretty good, but they lost to Purdue.
Purdue's first win of the season,
yeah,
too. So.
It was. And Boston College at the time was ranked, so that was a big hurting on them. And then University of Louisville, I don't know what to say about them. They lost to Virginia 27-3, and it was a rough game all around. They couldn't get the passing going. Run game was looking terrible. They only had a field goal in the game, so I think Louisville's going to be having a struggle the rest of the season.
Yeah, it's not looking good for the Cards. You know, we talked last week about the ACC teams that people were hoping would do more, and Florida State and Louisville kind of both fit into that category. Florida State still hasn't looked too impressive. I believe they did win over the weekend. But still haven't looked very impressive. Definitely a game to watch. I think it may come down when Louisville and Florida State play. The winner potentially gets a bowl game. The loser does not.
Yep.
It's kind of where they're both looking right now.
Yep, that game's this Saturday, 3:30. So it's at Louisville. So
yeah, that one may be for bowl eligibility when it comes to the end of the season. That one may be the one that gets them over the hump for whoever wins Saturday. The Big 12, Oklahoma, they were looking impressive, and then you come out and play Army and win by a touchdown against an Army team at home that you should have won by a lot more. Iowa State, they only won by 10 the week before, so I'm not too sure about Oklahoma right now. They lost Baker, obviously. Baker Mayfield, Heisman winner. That was he was a lot for their offense. Obviously, it's a lot to replace, but it's an Oklahoma program that usually reloads pretty well. They just haven't looked too impressive to me. I'm just going to be honest. The Big 12 is kind of open right now. I don't see ranking wise Oklahoma's ranked 6th, so they're the top team in the conference. But then you've got West Virginia. They're undefeated at number 12. You also have Texas, 3-1 at number 18. But Texas has some solid wins.
they do.
2 back-to-back, actually, where USC, they win 37-14. Then they beat TCU 31-16. So solid wins on Texas' resume. And it may – I know for fans of the Big 12, they want Texas to be good just because of that rivalry of Oklahoma and Texas. Yes. So that game may live up to that rivalry's tradition this year. So, as we said, the Big 12 it's kind of open right now. You've got Texas Tech also moving in there. They just defeated 25. Oklahoma State, that was ranked, moved in at number 25. They're 3-1 as well. So, Big 12 it's kind of open right now. Definitely a conference to keep your eyes on, with them actually having a conference championship this year. All the teams play each other in the Big 12, obviously. They all play each other in the regular season. Then the teams with the 2 best records will play in the Big 12 championship at the end of the season. So definitely a conference to keep your eyes on because it's looking like a competitive conference.
It is.
Now, whether that translates to them being competitive in a playoff or getting a team in, not sure yet. It's kind of too early to tell, but it's definitely one to watch and pay attention to, maybe see which team does, in fact, win that conference and potentially make it into the playoff.
And they have like 4 or 5 teams that could easily win the conference championship for them. That Texas-Oklahoma game will really clear the picture up of how good Texas is and see how bad Oklahoma is.
Yeah.
So that will really help fans decide what team is really legit this year.
Indeed. The Big Ten. It's kind of, I would say it's Ohio State's to lose right now. What's your thoughts on that? I mean, there's some other teams, but as of right now, it's looking like
Ohio State's looking pretty good. Yeah, 4-0. All the wins have been dominated. And, it's looking good. But, they play Penn State, though, this weekend. So that will see how good they are in that 4 seed. So,
yeah, they are ranked 4th, Penn State 9th. It's a big game this weekend. We'll dig into that game a little bit more here in a second. But also, Big Ten, Wisconsin. Wisconsin. They were actually picked preseason to win the Big Ten. There were some people, I believe Lee Corso, as a matter of fact, picked Wisconsin to win the national championship. So they have not impressed, according to that preseason ranking. You know, they came out and lost to BYU and then went to Iowa, They pulled away late, but
They did,
as
yeah,
we
they
talked
rallied.
about last week, playing at Iowa in Big Ten is a tough. It's a tough Big Ten game when you go to Iowa, and Iowa definitely came out competitive and gave Wisconsin a game. Wisconsin pulled it out 28-17,
Yep.
but it's still a Wisconsin team that I'm not sure about. Um, they're on the other side of the Big Ten. They're over there away from the Ohio State and Penn State. Usually, a lot easier side they can get in there and win that. But division, make it to the championship. But that's they're not they haven't impressed.
Yeah.
So Big Ten, you got Michigan as well up there that can make some noise. They're 3-1. But as of right now, it's looking like this Saturday may be whoever wins this Saturday may take the Big Ten. Is the way it's looking as far as talent goes.
Yeah.
The Pac-12. Pac-12 is kind of you've got Stanford. They defeated Oregon by a touchdown. Had a big win there.
That was a good game, yeah.
That was a great game for Stanford. They're kind of looking like the team right now in the Pac-12. What are your thoughts on Pac-12, Zach?
I'm liking Stanford all the way. Yeah, 4-0. They rallied to beat Oregon, which Oregon's a pretty good team. So they gave them a good competition there. But Stanford's quarterback threw in that game for 327 yards, 3 touchdowns. Bryce Love, the running back that everybody loves in the Pac-12. He ran for 89 yards and a touchdown. So I feel like he could have done better in that game. I think really Oregon's defense held him back than what he could do. So it'll be interesting to see throughout the season in these other Pac-12 games that Stanford plays in. I'll see how he performs in those games. Will be a test to him.
There's a big Pac-12 game this week. As we said, Stanford did beat Oregon. Oregon will play at California this Saturday. That game, of course, it's out west, so you got to be willing to stay up and watch. It's at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time is when that game starts. So a late game, but for those that want to keep up with Pac-12, that one's a game that definitely worth watching. Oregon at Cal. Cal is 3-0. Oregon's only loss is the Stanford loss last weekend. So
And they're both top 25 games too. So
yeah, Oregon 19 right now, Cal 24. So definitely a big game for the Pac-12 moving forward. The last Power 5 conference, my favorite. Of course, I'm a Georgia fan. So SEC, as usual, we have teams up there in the top 25. That fans of other conferences will give the usual, it's SEC biased, and they're not really that good. I'm just going to, from my honest opinion, obviously, I'm somewhat biased with being a Georgia fan, but in my opinion, talent, the way I've seen so far this season, talent-wise, Alabama, Georgia, LSU looking like 3 of the top teams in the nation.
Yep. Definitely. They are looking strong. 4-0, all those teams are. And they have some quality wins, some big wins, like LSU beating Auburn. But LSU has Ole Miss coming up, Florida, and then Georgia. So 3 pretty tough SEC games. But that LSU-Georgia game, that'll be a pretty awesome game. I bet the atmosphere is going to be crazy. Yeah,
that is going to be a huge game. If I'm just thinking back, the last time we played LSU might have been when A.J. Green played for us, and that game ended up going to overtime. So that definitely a big game. Stadium's going to be rocking. We'll be at LSU, but it's going to be a huge game on not only the SEC level but playoff level. That's a huge game. As you said, LSU did defeat Auburn, who also has a quality win. Washington, don't want to leave them out. They are still Pac-12 front runner there as well. They're ranked 11th. Their only loss is to Auburn in that first week. So don't want to leave them out of the conversation. But as you said, LSU with a quality win over Auburn. It's Auburn's only loss on the season by a point. Auburn did bounce back and defeat Arkansas by 31 after that last weekend. So definitely going to be interesting. Just my take on the SEC right now. The East, you have Georgia, and then you have some teams that are looking like Kentucky, Missouri, that are going to compete for second. but just talent standpoint, it kind of looks like the East is Georgia's to lose. Well, not kind of. It pretty much looks like it's theirs to lose right now. And then the West is a lot more interesting. You have Alabama, LSU, and Auburn. That this division could go either way. LSU has defeated Auburn so far, but Alabama and LSU have yet to play, and as well, Alabama and Auburn's always the Iron Bowl last week of the season. So it's definitely going to be interesting. Those games, Georgia we play at LSU, we play Auburn at home. Huge games on the SEC level as well as the playoff level. Those games moving forward, a lot of games to watch there. Speaking of games to watch, so my pick, game of the week, just a thing that me and Zach, we decided we were going to give a game of the week for our listeners out there to listen to. My game of the week this week is going to be the Ohio State-Penn State game. It is at Penn State. It's going to be 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. The Ohio State is favored by 3.5 points the last I checked. So that game, a big game, huge game for Big Ten as well as playoff implications moving forward. As I said, Ohio State, I'm just checking right now. They're still favored at 3.5 points. That game will be on ABC. So that is my game of the week for the listeners out there. 7:30 p.m. If you're not doing anything else and you like college football, you'll want to be in front of that TV to watch that Ohio State-Penn State. It should definitely impress.
Yeah, definitely be a good game. My game of the week is going to be Notre Dame and Stanford, 8 versus 7. That's another 7:30 game as well this weekend. Definitely will be a good game. Stanford will have to travel to Notre Dame, so traveling from the West Coast to the East.
Yeah, it's a big travel.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, Notre Dame is in Indiana, Stanford's in California, so it's a long trip.
Long trip for them, but that'll be definitely a good game on NBC. So interesting to see what conference is really gonna or try to make an impact on the college football stage.
For Notre Dame, they're an independent. We haven't spoke about them yet this week. They are ranked 8th. They're 4-0. This is a huge game for them if they want to make a run at the playoff. Just because without being in a conference, the playoff committee puts a big importance on conference championships for tiebreakers. And without being in a conference, obviously they can't win a championship. So this is a huge game. These are the games that Notre Dame has to win. Last season, Notre Dame was around that. They were in the playoff conversation, but they had a big game at home where Georgia came in and won by a point. That game may have been what kept Notre Dame out of the playoff last season. So
sure, and both teams here are 4-0. So whatever team loses, we get a loss to their column. So definitely be a battle of the unbeatens. Yeah.
Indeed, it will. And as we said, those games are at 7:30. For those of you that have a TV where you can watch 2 games simultaneously, definitely a good week to use that because that's probably the 2 biggest games this week on at the same time. You can talk to ABC as well as I'm not sure which network. That Notre Dame Stanford games on.
NBC.
NBC.
Yep.
So you can take it up with ABC and NBC while they wanted to have those games at the same time. But as we said, those definitely 2 good games to watch. Moving forward, the way we like to end our show here with our college football top 4 teams. Now this isn't just to clarify, it isn't our ranking of these are the 4 teams that are going to make the playoff. This is just the 4 best teams that we've seen this season, and then kind of a dark horse. Basically, if the season ended today without conference championships, no further games, the 4 teams we think are the best for the playoff, and then a dark horse team. So, Zach, you want to start it off and give your top 4 and dark horse?
My 4 teams are Alabama, Georgia, Clemson, Ohio State. And then my dark horse will have to be UK, Kentucky.
UK. Well, that's a big
4-0. That's all I say.
That's a big pull. So you heard it here first. Zach putting Kentucky as a dark horse for the playoffs. So obviously they would have to get some big wins. They got some big games on the schedule coming up. So if they were able to pull some of those out, then it is potentially possible. So you heard it here first. Zach putting University of Kentucky as his dark horse. Myself, top 4, Alabama, Georgia, Clemson, and I'm going to have to go LSU. You can call me biased putting 3 teams in there, but it's just the teams that I have seen look the most impressive so far. Alabama, Georgia, Clemson, LSU have definitely they've been dominating. Those 4 teams have dominated their opponents. Got some ranked opponents on those schedule for those 3 SEC teams, and the only really close game for LSU is that win on Auburn against Auburn, which was ranked in the top 10. They're still ranked in the top 10. So big wins there. Those are my top 4. My dark horse, I'm going to go Texas.
Okay.
They've looked impressive against ranked opponents, and I could see them coming in and taking the Big 12 and making a run for the playoff, which would be huge for their new coach down there. So there you have it. My top 4, Zach's top 4, as well as our dark horse. It's gonna wrap it up. Anything else you want to give the listeners out there?
Be a great weekend for college football, so stay tuned to it. Yeah.
So we've wrapped you up. Everything Colonel Nation, as well as the national scale, our takeaways. Make sure you get out there and support the Colonels. Every home game, get out and support the Colonels. And Colonel Nation helps them get some wins on the column. And we won't see you, but you'll hear us back here next week.